Hey there everybody, Joe here. Thanks for watching my video. I thought I would take a little bit of time out and paint a landscape for myself here. I've been seeing a lot of pretty colors around here since it's fall and we've got all the red and yellow leaves. And so I was imagining something dramatic with a cliff and a tree. I did a pencil sketch beforehand, and that's the way I do all of my painting projects now. Whether it's for a client or for myself, I will always render it first with pencil or something else, maybe on the computer if I feel like doing it in color, or maybe just a small and simple painting. But the point is, you can see me doing the pencil drawing here in this video. I have the opportunity to see my idea in its raw state, whatever I can just sketch out really quickly and then develop it on a small scale, because even though I'm able to just go straight to the canvas with my idea and adjust as I go, that will take me a lot more time when I reach the point where I realize that my raw idea wasn't quite as good as what I can develop that idea into by seeing it first and then thinking, well, how could it be better? So I think it's smart to give yourself the opportunity to adjust your idea on a small scale before you move to a larger one that's not quite as easy to adjust. So I'm going to start painting now, and I'm not going to use that drawing. I'm not going to look at it because I still want to work from my imagination. It's just that drawing is a great tool for developing that picture in my memory, so that I have something that I'm more confident about as I'm painting now. I've already gone through some hypothetical situations, some ideas, different ideas, and worked it out with a pencil. And now I'm ready to take what I've got in my mind to the canvas. But I gotta be careful. If I get into a copying project, man, I can be there for a long time. So I just don't have it in me to copy something loosely. It's like a real hang-up with me. If I'm going from a picture, I have to go exactly from a picture. Man, I don't know why I'm like that, but I am. All right, so before I start putting paint on the canvas, I'll show you the paints that I'm using. All of these, I just ask for the pigment all by itself. I just look at their pigment and say, hey, can I have that pigment in a deep satin base? So phthalo blue in a deep satin base. This would be like a burnt umber, magenta, a bright yellow, phthalo green, and that's my bright red, a bright white, and black. I always like to use black and white in my paintings, and I've got my violet. So all of my colors, except for the black and the white and the red, those are tints that come right off of the shelf. They just come that color. But these they tint behind the counter at the paint store. All of them are just that one pigment in a deep satin base. Now you can also go to muraljoe.com/FAQ to see a quick write-up that I did about the kind of paints that I like to use. You can look there, and you can also download my free video getting started with materials and paints. So the first thing I'm going to do here is grab my big brush, a 1-inch Purdy, just an ordinary contracting brush. But when I get to the details, I'll use a very similar brush. What's good about it is that it comes to a chisel-like point. This is just a cheap one. You can get more expensive ones that'll last longer. This is Taklon. That's the kind of bristle. So I'm seeing a big cliff here, just like in my drawing. I'm kind of imagining a cliff with a lot of, I always liked the way it looked. Here in the Southwest, I'm in Arizona, we have a lot of rocks that they have corners. They have a lot of corners, like they're broken off, and the cleavage lines where they're broken just come off like glass, and it leaves sharp edges. And I like the dramatic look of that. I never like to say use this exact color. That's why I just show you the primaries that I like to work from, because it's the relationship between the colors that makes all of the difference. All the difference in causing the look of light and shadow, to communicate what's happening in the picture. Just as long as I have that shadow looking more violet, more gray, blue, violet than the sunlit areas. I'm gonna put another layer behind this rock too. So back there, you know, adding atmosphere. As a general rule, when you're adding atmosphere, I intend on having some kind of a blue sky up there. So I'm going to put blue. But anytime you mix blue with anything, it turns greener than what natural light would do. So if you add violet, it adds the red color that's lost. That's why it turns greener, because red light is lost when you mix blue with something. So you add violet so that it looks like natural light mixing instead of like that green effect that happens when paint mixes. Yeah, that's cool. So where it's facing down, it's not really facing toward the blue sky, so I won't do the blue violet color on that downward facing shadow, at least not nearly as much. You know, there might be bluish colored light bouncing all over the place, but anything facing out or up would have more. So I'm going to put this edge in here, use some horizontal brush strokes to get some little details in there. And that looks kind of cool. Hold on. And then when it goes down onto the face, that's where I'm going to have it be a little more of the blue-violet color so that it looks like it's catching light from the sky. That's how you can do a lot of complex light and shadow on rocks, is by putting color in the shadows according to what the color of the things that the shadows are facing are. You know, this is facing the sky, so I'm going to put more, I'm deciding that it's facing the sky. So I put that more violet color, and see, that makes a surface that's going out this way, while this one makes a surface that's facing down. It's fun to flip-flop between the positive and negative space, or in more simple terms, the light and the shadow areas on this, because you get different shapes. You know, whether you're painting the shapes in between the others or painting the others in between the shapes. You know, flip-flopping the part that you're painting and the part that you're not painting. You know, I start with big shapes and then I try to make shapes within shapes. So if I make some small shapes that are making this larger triangle, and all I do is just break it apart into smaller pieces a little bit so that it's not just one single big shape, you know, and I can do that by taking some of the light and putting it in the dark, and some of the dark and putting it in the light, so that it's not just one line that divides the dark and light anymore. Try to even those out a little bit, the darkness of them. There, see, I've got the same larger shape, but I've broken it up into some smaller shapes as well, so that it creates some, hopefully, some more interest in my picture. I think I want this shadow here to not be so big, so I'm going to thin this one out right here. Put some white down here, borrow some of that color. I always like to have, you know, a consistent color, so a lot of the time you'll see me borrow color from where I've got excess and put it down in another spot. If nothing else, just because I want to get that big blob of paint off, and maybe if I just take it and put it somewhere else, something cool might happen. I might get lucky. A lot of the time I just end up painting over it, but I'm in the habit of quickly grabbing areas of excessive paint and just borrowing that color and putting it somewhere else when I need it. Seems to work in harmony with the fast painting technique. You know, keeps me moving, which keeps some unexpected things happening. I wasn't planning on that, but I kind of like that swoop in there. What if we did a couple more? I'm going to do more of those swoopy shapes up here. Make the edge of that rock disappear behind this one. I kind of like that too, just having them run together here. Let's see how that goes. What if we just... It's a fun shape though. It's just, you know, I love the unexpected, so whenever I do something that... I try to be responsive to the things that happen unexpectedly so that I can have that feel of the unexpected in my picture. I put this dark line in here, and so this is a nice place to do maybe a long crack in the rock. So I'll get a nice dark color. A lot of the time I'll use black if I want it to be real close and three-dimensional. This is more distant, so we'll see. I'll just start with the brown and enhance it with black if it feels like it needs it. Then I'll take my bright color, yellow, white, brown, same color, that I've been using, and I'll blend it up to that, just grabbing a little bit so that it gradually pulls the colors together so that it's not just a sharp line, but I have all of these gradually darker colors moving toward that line, so it makes it look like the rock bends into that shadow. It's a lot easier to paint both sides of a line when you're trying to get a real sharp, skinny line. A lot easier to bring the edges to it rather than trying to paint that sharp edge from the beginning. I'm going to end up redoing the background once I have some context to look at. So for now, I'm just going to take black and white, make a gray. See what happens if I take that gray down into the middle of this arch right here, put background in there. This black and white mixes an unrelated color here, so it'll immediately look like it's happening on a different layer. If a color is unrelated enough, and if you cut an edge, then it'll look like it's not part of the object. Add this purple here, maybe put a few little nicks of that purple in places where it might have a shadow on this side of the mountain facing the sun. I want to go over this brown color that's there currently because that doesn't look distant enough. If I get rid of that, then this whole thing will look a lot more distant. Yeah, I like that better. Here I'm imagining another peak shooting up. I'm going to kind of get the paint out of my brush and add more of that light brown color. I'm going to take a minute, take a short break, and clean my brush because it's getting all goobered up. But I want to show you that my brushes do get all messed up. I have a lot of consciousness about my technique so that I don't have paint this far down my brush after an hour of painting. But you can see on the base of the bristles, it is starting to work its way down into the ferrule, and that makes my brush flare out. When you wash your brush, I know this seems like very simple, obvious instruction, but soap really does make a difference if you wash it, not the next day because it dries real hard in there, but if you wash with soap instead of just with water, really this powdery pigment that makes the paint not as shiny. Most paint has some kind of a flattening powder. That gets lodged in there. The pigment and the powder gets lodged in the base of the bristles. The soap helps a lot. So when you do intermediate washing, you can save the shape of your brush for a lot longer just by using common hand soap. I'm going to put pure white wherever I want snow in the sun. So I'm thinking wherever I have a darker area that looks like a shadow, I'll just put the snow to the right of that so that it looks like the snow is in valleys. So I can make the snow look more three-dimensional by being mindful of where I have those areas popping out already. And it's not like I have to think so hard about it. I'm just looking for shape, looking for shadows, and then putting snow to the right of it. That's all. Time to do the right side of the mountain. Let's put snow in these valleys. Now hopefully this color is still a little bit darker than my sky. I want it to be a little darker, and since it looks like it matches in lightness, it'll be darker. When paint dries, it's darker. This paint's dry, so this wet paint that looks like a match right now will, I think, darken down. I'll add a little bit more color just to be sure. Like I said before, it is a balancing act because I want it to be lighter than if I have to, I'll just make my sky lighter. I want it to be lighter than the shadow side of my mountain because it's snow. I would like it to be darker than the sky that it's in front of. Yeah, there we go. Now we've got snow way up there. This looks like a fun spot to put a little bit right on the top of that rock. Now I'm going to need some pure white. Just a tiny little patch of snow that's in that valley between those two rocks. Maybe a little here too. I'll use this blue violet to put it here because this is in a shadowed area. Then I'll grab a little bit of pure white again to highlight anywhere I think it might be in the sunlight. Maybe just a couple little patches still. Just a little bloop, bloop. I'm going to do what I said and adjust my sky color. Might just need another coat too because that didn't cover. You can see colors underneath that popping through. So let's see if we can get the sky nice and light. Those mountains, I still feel like, man, I just really feel like they could still look better. More distant, you know, more huge and distant. I really want them to just look big and far away. I'm going to try putting one more distant mountain way up there. I want a shadow on this rock because I want a tree in front of it. You can make a shadow for any color. And whether or not it looks like a shadow is not based on where you put it or if you have the right objects in place. It really is just the color, just like this looks like a shadow. So it's facing toward the sky. It's going to have the light of the sky. The sky is shining from all of those different directions way up there. The sun's only shining from that one spot. So that's why I have a hard shadow, because the sun shines from a very tiny location, one location. So you get a shadow cast where the sun is not hitting that rock. If I have a tree, I'm going to say there's a tree casting that shadow. But in that shadow is still all the light from the blue sky. That's why a shadow needs to have more blue. And so I'm going to mix this color with violet to get the result that would happen if it were blue light mixing with that. So I'll just do my brown and white to start with, because remember, my brown and white is already more violet than that. But then I'm going to add a little bit of violet as well to go a little bit more toward the violet blue. The tree is still casting a shadow around this bend, but that bend has less of that skylight on it. So here I'm going to start mixing more brown and continue the same tree shadow. So let me add brown to this. Just kind of thinking about the math here. This will be a fun effect for the shadow to wrap around this bend. I'll go back to the violet. Let's put the violet back in there. And now I'm going to bend it back into the light again, right here on these lighter spots. It's going to be fun putting a tree in front of that. It's always fun to be able to set a stage first and then put the object in there that it was made for. Put some little shapes of maybe trees or something right there. They could be coming from anywhere, you know. You don't have to keep track of what is making what shadow. As long as you've got a good shadow color, it's a shadow. You need white too in there. Got to get just that right balance of color and lightness. Putting little tiny patches of that light coming through here, I think, will be a nice effect. Gradually less as it goes down, because the vegetation is getting thicker as it goes down that canyon wall. It's fun working with these colors. I really like them. Put some brown in there. A little more brown down in here, just trying to make some more definition in the rock, just messing with shapes. I can already see that I'm going to want to add more color to this, but I'm going to do that in the next video. You know, I want to make this rock, well, I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I don't want to do that. You know, I want vibrant colors in the trees. I still have to add a lot of color to the trees. So I'm going to do like I did before. I'm going to rest, get a fresh look at it, and then decide. Hey, thanks for watching part 1 of my project. I can't wait to show you part 2. And so please do subscribe and look at the links below for more information and stay in touch. I'll see you next time.